Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Xplained Daily. Let me start with a simple question. Do you remember the first time you realized that childhood doesn't last forever? Not because someone told you, but because something ended. Maybe it was the last summer when your friends stopped knocking on your door. Maybe it was the first time your kids didn't need you the same way anymore. Or maybe it was the moment a TV show you loved reached its final chapter. That's the feeling Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 2 leaves behind. Not fear, not shock, but something quieter. A realization that we're standing at the edge of goodbye. For nearly a decade, Stranger Things hasn't just been a Netflix series. It's been a time machine. One that carried us back to basements, bikes, walkie-talkies, arcades, and late nights where imagination did the heavy lifting. And now, as the story moves closer to its end, the show asks its hardest question yet. What does it really cost to save the world? And who ends up paying that price? Season 5 Volume 2 continues the story after the chaos of the earlier episodes, acting as a bridge toward the final confrontation still to come. These episodes don't rush. They slow things down just enough to let the weight sink in. For viewers over 45, that pacing matters. Because this season isn't just about monsters anymore. It's about watching kids we met as children now face consequences that feel very adult. Disappointment, loss, fear of the future, and the understanding that not every battle ends cleanly. The Duffer Brothers make one thing clear here. They're not interested in cheap shock. No major characters die in these episodes. Instead, they do something far more effective. They prepare us. One of the most unsettling storylines belongs to Eleven and Callie. When Hopper and Eleven rescue Callie from captivity, we learn something disturbing. Callie wasn't being held for punishment. She was being harvested. Her blood used to continue the same experiments that created Eleven, Vecna, and others. For those of us who grew up during Cold War paranoia, government secrecy, and whispered fears of experiments gone wrong, this storyline hits close to home. It feels familiar in the worst way. And then comes the conversation that changes everything. Callie tells Eleven the truth as she sees it. The labs won't stop. The government won't stop. Even if Vecna is defeated, someone else will take his place. And the only way to end the cycle is for both of them to disappear with the Upside Down itself. Not escape, not victory, sacrifice. For parents watching, this moment lands hard. Hopper doesn't see a weapon standing in front of him. He sees a daughter. And the idea that her life might be defined by one final act is something no parent wants to accept. This isn't science fiction anymore. This is a story about letting go. Meanwhile, back in Hawkins, Max's journey continues. She returns from her long silence, but not untouched. She's alive, but changed. Fragile. Healing. Learning how to exist in a body that doesn't feel the same anymore. For anyone who's survived illness, trauma, or loss, Max's story feels honest. Survival doesn't mean returning to who you were. It means learning who you are now. Lucas's devotion to her is one of the quiet, emotional anchors of these episodes. He doesn't rush her. He doesn't fix her. He simply stays. That kind of love doesn't get enough attention, but it's the kind that lasts. Then there's Will. From the very first season, Will has been the emotional core of Stranger Things. And here, he faces his greatest fear. Not Vecna, not the Upside Down. Rejection. In a vision, Will sees a future where the people he loves don't accept him. That fear pushes him to finally speak his truth. He comes out. Simply. Honestly. Without drama. And the response? Love. Support. Acceptance. For many in the 45-plus audience, this scene may feel especially powerful. Some of us grew up in a time where silence felt safer than honesty. Seeing that cycle broken, even in a fictional town like Hawkins, carries real meaning. This is Stranger Things at its best. Not loud, not flashy, just human. Other storylines quietly reach turning points. Nancy and Jonathan finally admit what they've both felt for a while. Sometimes love doesn't end because of betrayal. Sometimes it ends because people grow in different directions. Their breakup isn't explosive. It's mature, painful in a familiar way. Steve continues to prove why he's become one of the show's most beloved characters. Not because he wins, but because he cares. Because he shows up. Because he's willing to risk himself without needing recognition. Dustin uncovers more about the Upside Down, revealing it as a bridge to something even darker, something called the Abyss. The The danger isn't just invasion anymore. It's erasure. And throughout it all, Vecna waits. Watching, manipulating, preparing. The episodes end not with resolution, but with possession. Children overtaken, lines blurred, a sense that something irreversible is approaching. What makes Volume 2 so effective is restraint. The show doesn't rush into death. It lets the idea of it sit in the room. It allows viewers to imagine the cost before showing it. For younger audiences, this may feel frustrating. For older viewers, it feels familiar, because life rarely gives us neat endings. More often, it gives us time to reflect before the door closes. Stranger Things has always been about monsters. But now, the real monster is inevitability. The end of childhood. The end of innocence. The end of stories we wish could go on forever. So what happens next? Will Eleven and Callie truly sacrifice themselves? Will Will's connection offer another way? Will the cycle finally break? We don't know yet. But one thing is clear. Stranger Things isn't preparing us for shock. It's preparing us for acceptance. And sometimes, that's the hardest part. If you grew up in the 70s, 80s, or 90s, this show isn't just entertainment. It's a mirror, a reminder of who we were, who we loved, and how quickly time moves. And as we head toward the final chapter, one truth remains. Some goodbyes hurt because they mattered. Thank you for spending this time with me on Xplained Daily. If this story stirred memories or emotions, you're not alone. And if you want to see how this journey truly ends, the next chapter is almost here. I'll see you in the next one.